Well, Barbara, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today ahead of your session at Shoptalk Luxe in January.
Thank you for having me, Rebecca. It's lovely meeting you.
Likewise, it's lovely to be in your studio. What a privilege. And yeah, really looking forward to our conversation. So let's dive right in. What we want to do with this conversation really is tee up what you're going to be speaking about in more depth in Abu Dhabi, which is the incredible transformation that you've led and are leading at Joseph, and what that looks like in the future. So I've got a couple of questions around that, and I'd love to pick your brains a bit more broadly around the brand elevation. So kind of tangible steps that you're taking now, and what you're planning for the future, and what that means to you. What does elevation mean to Joseph and to you as CEO? So just looking a moment at the transformation, you've had to make a lot of bold changes that have paid off incredibly well. What was the hardest kind of mindset shift that you had to drive in the organization when you arrived as CEO?
When I joined Joseph, I really felt a sense of urgency to change very rapidly the trajectory of the business. So when you go to a transformation like this and so much change, it is really important that everyone is aware of what we're doing and where we're going, but also that everyone feels that they are part of this transformation and they feel the responsibility of being a part of this transformation. So to answer your question, I think the main mindset shift has been around accountability within the business and within every one of our tasks for everybody.
Were there specific KPIs that you changed? Were there specific metrics that you were looking at in measuring kind of the change, and kind of how the change in mindset was taking hold, and what did success look like to you when you were making those changes?
It doesn't come necessarily immediate because it's a process. So obviously we had a set of KPIs that we put in place, a clear dashboard that we put in place from the beginning. This dashboard is still relevant today, but on and on as, you know, the context change, as the climate change, I'm talking about, macroeconomics here. Obviously, you have to review those KPIs and adapt accordingly. But I would not say you see immediate, change into your transformation. It's a long process.
With you've been quoted in a recent article saying that kind of bringing in your new creative director, Mario, isn't just a creative refresh, but a real kind of modernization of the business engine. So I know that you've looked at lots of parts of the business, including online as well. What exactly, so that phrase, modernization of the business engine, what exactly does that mean kind of in practical terms? What parts of the business have you really focused on in this part of the transformation?
So obviously when we talk about modernization, we talk about systems, right? And a big part was around that, around making the business more data-driven so that we could take better decisions. So around the system, around also our operational model, particularly around logistics. But I think ultimately it was also modernizing the way we operate, the way we communicate, and the way people work with one another. That has made an enormous difference.
With you spoke about, just drilling specifically into kind of the e-com part, which you discussed in a recent article as well. So with 60% of your sales done in store, so bricks and mortar is obviously very important, as are digital channels. How are you bridging those two channels, and how that's impacted the customer experience as well?
So obviously when we talk digitalization, we think ultimately and only e-com. We've done a lot of work within our platform. We just moved into Shopify, for example, last year, which has enabled us even to go further within our customer experience. I think this is not an area where you will stay still, because the technology evolves all the time. The consumer requirement and demand evolves all the time, and what they're looking for into that type of service. So this is something we're constantly looking at. But we went further to move actually this digital experience into our own physical stores, because they're extremely important for us as well, as you mentioned. And we did that by, first of all, bringing an omni-channel system in place, which allows obviously everyone to have visibility of the stock and to sell a product from everywhere, which is fantastic. We also equipped our sales executives in store with a tool which is called Proximity, that allows them very safely to have a tailored communication with their customer. And that has made also such difference. And lastly, we moved away from the very traditional till system into iPads, which again, in the customer journey within the store, makes it so much more seamless and very much more client focused.
Very, very interesting. So that shift towards clienteling and the technology that you're equipping sales associates to be able to kind of deepen those relationships, and that's super interesting. With when customers are in store, what would you like them? So, what feeling would you like them to leave your stores with? What kind of experience, and what feeling about the brand do you want them to leave with? And kind of how are you designing the whole in-store experience, including the kind of digital elements and store associate training, etc. If you had to kind of describe it in one word, what would that be?
Welcomed. One word is difficult because we want to give them really a good experience, and we can talk about that more in detail in Abu Dhabi. But all in all, is creating an environment that is warm and quiet, but also welcoming. Where if you imagine the buzz of a high street, you enter somewhere, you know, that is calm, that is beautiful, where you have attention, almost like when you go to a spa and you want to be pampered. That's exactly what we want to give to our customers an experience. We want them to leave the store feeling like their purchase is meaningful, that they had, you know, the attention that they deserve, and that they feel uber confident in the clothes that they just purchased.
Are there any, so in terms of that, let's stick with that feeling, kind of welcome for a moment. Is there anywhere that you look to for inspiration, whether that's, you know, other retail brands or outside of retail, perhaps other industries where you think that, you know, they do exceptional jobs in making their customers feel welcome? Kind of where do you draw inspiration from when you're thinking about designing the ideal customer journey that you would like your customers to have?
In uber luxury, and particularly in hospitality, I think they really set the tone for making the customer welcome. If you think about a hotel, you know, or a wonderful restaurant, and you want that consistency also to be there all the time. And that's the most difficult element to keep, you know, on track, is that consistency in service. So this is what inspires us, really.
It's interesting, and I think it's interesting the role of technology, the role that technology can play in that, right? Because you know, service, if you think about kind of ultra luxury hotels, it's the human connection and the human experience that makes it feel really luxury. But the interesting thing about technology, obviously, is how it can underpin it from kind of a quiet luxury, if you will, and kind of make it automate some things that and free sales associates, or, you know, in the context of hotels, up to really provide that white glove service. So I think it's an interesting balance, and yeah, interesting to think about. Let's stick as well around the omni-channel piece, which you mentioned, kind of bridging the e-com and stores together. And I know that's something you're investing in. In 2 years, what would kind of an ideal omni-channel unified experience look like? And if you had to kind of pick one thing that you would love to have by tomorrow, as you would want it, like which part of that would it be, and what would that look like?
I would love for us to be able to deliver exactly the same tailored and personalized service online as we can do in store. I feel it's becoming possible. But think about, you know, you go onto a website and you have almost the feeling to be part of a community and also to be taken by the hand by someone behind the screen, a human behind the screen, that can really guide you, really advise you, and give you that sense of, again, purpose and belonging.
Interesting that you emphasize the word human, because when I, one of the thoughts I had was, what role could AI potentially play in that? But how are you thinking about AI in that journey, in that future kind of journey? What role does that or will that play?
I think it will play a big role, AI, in enabling actually that connection to multiply. But I still very much believe that the human and the emotional connectivity needs to be there and driving actually that intelligence towards the customer.
Let's kind of shift gears a little bit and focus on international expansion, because I know that that's something that you are focused on, and I understand that you see great potential in the UK, growing footprint here, and also the Middle East. Can you expand on that a little bit, and any other markets that you've got your eye on?
I think there's so many places where we're completely underpenetrated. Indeed, the Middle East is such an important market for us. We're not in the Middle East currently, but our customer base from the Middle East in London has been growing year on year at a very interesting rate. I think the silhouettes, the refinement of our clothes and of our fabrics really resonate well in the region. And definitely this is an area we're looking at developing further.
Very interesting. Well, Abu Dhabi will be a good opportunity to be there in person. So shifting gear a moment. So Mario, your new creative director, would love to speak a little bit more and understand a bit more about his role in the broader kind of modernization, elevation of the brand. When did he start? How many months ago was it?
He started in last summer. And actually his first collection he's been working on since has just dropped in store and online, if you want to have a look. We're extremely excited to have Mario Arena on board. Mario has been in the London fashion scene already for a long time, so he's been growing within his career actually alongside Joseph. So he knows the brand very, very well. He knows the codes very, very well. And he's bringing really an elevation to Joseph today. With his passion for form and for fabric we've looked at it earlier, right? Yeah. Behind the scene, is extremely innovative, and somehow that reminds me the story that I looked into when I joined Joseph about Joseph Ettedgui himself being, a pioneer, an innovator, pushing boundaries, and this is what Mario is doing today. He's really creating collectible pieces, pieces that have a purpose in your wardrobe, but pieces that you want to cherish and keep forever. And his vision is obviously going through, the entire look and feel of the brand. So also our imagery, the way we present our product, the way we communicate with our customers. And we want to invite her into a world which is bigger than just, clothes. A world that is head to toe, which is made also of shoes today, of handbag that we're relaunching, of jewelry, scarves. So we're really extending our categories and the space we want to take into our customers' life.
Very, very interesting and exciting. The timelessness piece I want to dig into a little bit. So you were quoted in a recent article talking about kind of customers' perceptions of value are changing, and you called Joseph an accessible luxury brand. So you're more expensive than high street, but slightly different kind of price points to kind of core luxury. So with the kind of timelessness of the designs, that plays very nicely into perception of value, for me personally, when I'm spending money, I want to buy pieces and investment pieces that are timeless in terms of style, etc. So kind of would love to hear more around kind of your perception of luxury, accessible luxury, and the role that you see Joseph playing in that arena.
You know, Joseph has always been positioned into that niche, as you describe, over the crowded market, but also under, from a price point, the luxury league. And I think it's a very modern place to be in. And we want to continue to be there and to be relevant into that sphere. So when I talked earlier about elevating the brand, it's not about elevating the price point. It's about continue to innovate and to surprise. I think for me, and to answer your question, and for a lot of consumers today, luxury is not about excess. It's actually about pieces that are made with beautiful fabric, pieces that have a wonderful craftsmanship, that are designed to endure the times, and pieces that you want to own and keep. And every time you take them back from your wardrobe, they give you that confidence because they're beautiful and because they sit beautifully on your body. That's what I think nowadays luxury means, at least for me.
Very, very, very interesting. No, I think I resonate very much with that too. With just kind of going back to Mario and new creative direction, I am very interested to understand how, so for a brand that has really kind of timeless DNA and look and aesthetic, how do you kind of balance and inject new creative lens direction, but make sure that it doesn't stretch too far to alienate loyalists that have been shopping the brand for years?
So it's about knowing what you stand for, the parameters of your brand, what are the values within that brand, and then exploring around that with innovation in color, innovation in fabrics, and then pushing the boundaries without completely revolutionizing, who you are. Because modernizing is about staying relevant. It's not about completely changing the scope of your business and your product.
Very interesting. And you see that throughout the transformation, because it's still visibly very, very Joseph, as we all know and have known and loved for many years. So yeah, very, very interesting. So just kind of zooming out a little bit and looking at the transformation journey that you've led since you joined, another CEO who is embarking on the same journey, leading a modernization, elevation, transformation, however you'd like to call it. What, if there's one piece of advice that you had to give them, what would it be based on your learnings and experience?
I think it would be, again, to know and to stay true to the core values of your brand or your product or your business. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult not to tap into every single trend. But ultimately, the consumer nowadays is very savvy, and they can really make the difference between what is genuine and what is market-led. So stay true to what you are, to your core values. The second advice I would give is, from a growth perspective, to look for growth through margin efficiency rather than increase of markup. Again, because the consumer can see the value in craftsmanship and in quality. And really it's about, to me, success and growth, it's really about finding efficiency within your product and your business model rather than growing through price increase.
Can you give some tangible examples of how you've done that at Joseph?
Yeah, one of the example is around the supply chain and really driving efficiency, getting closer relationship with our suppliers and our partners to obviously continue to enhance the efficiency of our business, but also of our product. It's also about making some tough choices and accepting that you can't be everything for everyone and that you can't offer everything into a woman's wardrobe. So being very disciplined into the process of design to product development.
I mean, in terms of the tough choices, are you able to give an example or two of some of the choices that you found toughest in relation to that?
Yeah, the product. That's the toughest all the time. But we work towards, a plan of number of styles and number of options that we want to lend to market. And it's tough to make the decision to say, well, this is it looks like a beautiful sketch, but we're not going to put it through because we have enough. And it's taking that decision at the moment of sketching rather than after you developed all the prototype and after you developed potentially a sample. That's a harder decision to make, and maybe sometimes we make mistakes, but we'll never know.
And with the decision making there, I mean, that, in terms of art versus science, what goes into making that decision? Is it just is it intuition? Like, is it data driven as well? It would be really good to understand kind of how you make those decisions, because that's hard and quite subjective, I would imagine, as well.
Obviously, the decision of the business are always data driven. But we are also a fashion company, and fashion is a form of art. And there is an element where you need to let that instinct play in. So it is, in those occasions, it's about, a discussion with people that are expert, our merchandiser, our design team. And we get together and, take the best decision that we can with the knowledge that, at the time we feel we have. So it is more instinctive in particular case, indeed.
And then there was another question I did want to finish on. So menswear. Can you tell us a little bit more about future plans for relaunching menswear?
What I can tell you is it is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when now. We're still obviously very focused on the creative renewal of the brand, especially with Mario's arrival and the launch of all of our new categories. So we want to do that perfectly. We like to, before we open a new chapter, we want to have one which is completely in order and a well-oiled engine. So that's where we are at the moment. But menswear is following suit very soon.
Well, very exciting.
Watch that space.
Yes, absolutely. I'll be very, very looking forward to it. And yeah, cheering you on from the sidelines.
Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure to meet you, Barbara.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you too. And can't wait to see you in Abu Dhabi.
Absolutely. Me too.
Thank you.